Get straight into it with Alabama. We're going to get straight into it. Alabama just causing chaos, beating the number one team in the nation, the Georgia Bulldogs, 27-24, keeping their playoff chances alive and making a case for the college football playoffs, which we will be getting into later in the show. Jalen Milroe, 13-23, 192 yards, 2 touchdowns, 14 carries for 29 yards. Roydell Williams also had 16 carries for 64 yards and a touchdown. Jam Miller had 9 carries for 23 yards, but he also had a 28-yard receiving touchdown. Isaiah Bond was the leading receiver on Alabama with 5 receptions for 79 yards, and Jermaine Burton had a crucial touchdown at the end of the first half. 2 catches, 28 yards, and 1 TD. Carson Beck had a pretty okay game, 21 of 29 for 243 yards, rushed for a TD. And Kendall Melton, the running back, 13 carries, 42 yards, 2 TDs. Dejon Edwards also had 10 carries with 38 yards. But Brock Bowers and Ladd McConkey, even though they were banged up coming into this game, they didn't really do nothing. Alabama's defense did a very good job on shutting down Brock Bowers and Ladd McConkey. Brock Bowers had 5 receptions for 53 yards and 3 receptions for 38 yards. And Arian Smith had that one deep play down the field, which went for 51 yards. And that was sort of kind of the momentum that Georgia kind of needed, but they just fell short. What I'm going to tell y'all about this game, and I told y'all Alabama can be the team that can cause chaos for this college football playoffs. I literally told y'all. And what did I tell y'all about Jalen Milroe? In order for Jalen Milroe to make that step to being one of the better, great quarterbacks that Alabama has had in the past previous years, Jalen Milroe has to come and play against these big-time teams, has to come and play against your Georgias, your LSUs if they're good, your Ole Miss if they're good. He has to throw the football. If this was the if this was the Jalen Milroe that we saw in week 2 against Texas, that we saw against week 3 against South Florida, it would not have looked good if they played Georgia in the SEC championship. But Jalen Milroe has gotten better week in and week out. He has proven to be the best quarterback that Alabama has had. And when it matters most, that play against Auburn, yes, it was desperation. It was a prayer, but he got it done. And when he came into Georgia, when he came into Atlanta to beat Georgia, he made key throws. And I want y'all to see both of these throws. Both of these throws was right before halftime. I really want y'all to see this. These are the type of throws, like I said in the last podcast, these are the type of throws that Jalen Milroe has to make in order to be that next good Alabama quarterback. So as you see, it's a 4th down and 4. Yes, this was a controversial catch. This was a controversial catch. Now looking back, people say that it was a catch. People saying that's not a catch. I'm an Alabama fan, so you know I'm gonna be biased. you know I'm gonna be biased. But Jalen Milroe put this ball in the right spot for Isaiah Bond to go and catch the ball. And then the next play after this, he finds Jermaine Burton for the touchdown. But I want y'all to see both of these throws. These are both great throws by Jalen Milroe.
Down and 4. They will go for it. Blitz on the way. Milroe lobs it far side. Bond, did he get it?
Right on 4th down and 4. And what Georgia was doing, Georgia was trying their best. They were blitzing Jalen Milroe. They got a couple of sacks on Jalen Milroe. And not only were they doing that, they were spying him to try and get Jalen Milroe to be contained in the pocket. There were times like later in the game where it was designed quarterback runs that Jalen Milroe was able to use his legs to get to the 1st down marker, which played key into winning this game as well. But the throws that he had to make to keep Alabama on top, Alabama, for the most part, controlled this game. Georgia had that early touchdown to make it 7-0, but after that, Alabama was mainly up by 10 points, so they were controlling the game. I wouldn't say that they dominated the game, but they most definitely controlled the game. They controlled the tempo of the game, and Georgia has never really had to play catch-up like that, and it was never really down really the whole season. So this is the other throw right after this. Exactly one play later.
Milroe scans the field to the end zone.
2 plays later, I'm sorry.
Milroe scans the field to the end zone. And it's caught. Jermaine Burton.
Right over the middle, back part of the end zone where only Jermaine Burton can catch the ball. That is a great throw by Jalen Milroe. Those are the type of throws that Jalen Milroe had to make, and he made those type of throws. Yes, there were times where he was just literally just looking, and there's going to be times when you're a young quarterback like Jalen Milroe. If I'm not mistaken, Jalen Milroe is a sophomore, where he's just looking at this one receiver. He's holding the ball. But once Jalen Milroe learns how to read coverages like a Tua, like a Joe Burrow, like a Bryce Young, once he's able to read coverages instead of being like a Jalen Hurts, and you're just looking, and then someone is literally wide open just standing there, and then you finally throw it to him, he's going to be a very dynamic quarterback. He's already a dynamic quarterback with his legs. But once he's able to read coverages, he will be that dude. Because there were plenty of times. There was times where he threw it to Isaiah Bond on 3rd downs and on 4th down where he was already open. There was a play where it was like a drag route, and Isaiah Bond was already open coming across the middle of the field. But he's looking to the left. He doesn't even see Isaiah Bond come and be wide open, and then he finally sees it, and then he throws it to him. That's the same thing that we saw with Jalen Hurts. If it wasn't for Ridley, if Ridley wasn't open, he's looking for Ridley. There might be someone else right there open, and then he finally throws it to him. It's the same way. They play the exact same way. But Jalen Milroe has proved this season that he has gotten better, and ever since he got benched week in and week out, he has played better against these teams that you need to beat, your LSUs, your Ole Miss, your Tennessees. When Tennessee, they came into Tuscaloosa and they were actually beating them coming into halftime. But coming out of halftime, Jalen Milroe and the Alabama Crimson Tide, they picked it up and they got the W. It's resilience. So then when you play what the committee thinks is the number 1 team, people are saying you don't have no shot against Georgia, and they come in and they controlled the game. They controlled how Georgia played on offense with shutting down Brock Bowers. That was the goal. Even though he was injured, it doesn't matter. Shutting down Brock Bowers, once you shut him down, and then Ladd McConkey obviously got injured in that game, had a bad ankle, you could clearly see. But once Brock Bowers was gone and the running game wasn't as good, they cleaned up on the running game. That was another thing that Alabama did. They cleaned up on the running game. Georgia didn't really rush the ball as well as Auburn did the week before, so they cleaned up on that. And then the cornerbacks with Arnold, and then you have Caleb Downs as safety coming in. He's doing good. All of these cornerbacks and safeties were covering, and they were doing their job. Story was doing his job as well. Textbook coverage. It didn't really have no flags the whole entire game. It was probably like 2 or 3. It wasn't that many flags this game. Alabama played a clean game, and Alabama really showed everybody that they can beat Georgia. That clearly showed that Georgia wasn't the best team all along. And we know this with Alabama. We know Alabama really is that one team that causes problems for Georgia. Georgia was the number 1 ranked team, has won 29 straight, back-to-back champions. And Alabama, they were the last team to beat them. They come in with a group of guys, and to be honest with you, this is a low year for Alabama. This is, I wouldn't say a rebuild year, but these are not the high caliber wide receivers and other skilled players that Nick Saban has had in the past. But they still come in. They still come into this SEC championship with a chip on their shoulder from what everybody is talking about them. And they come and they beat Georgia. That's a statement win. And it wasn't in dominating fashion, but they controlled the game. They controlled the game from start to finish. Other than that touchdown, like I said earlier, They controlled the game from start to finish. So you have to just look at Alabama differently, even though they lost to Texas at the beginning, and you can just see that they're a different team. That was a different team against USF, way different team. So Alabama, Jalen Milroe has done it. Jalen Milroe is that dude. This shows that Jalen Milroe is that dude. He can get you over the hump. He can get you over the hump, and he's going to continue to get better from his sophomore season to his junior season. And if he does stay for his senior season, he is going to get better because he's going to learn how to read coverages better. Like I said, these are the type of throws. He made some great throws. He made some great decisions in the shut out the game, to close the game out. Once Georgia had came and drove all the way down the field and scored the touchdown to make it a 3-point game, Jalen Milroe comes, runs the ball on first down, gets the first down. Runs it again and gets the first down. He put Alabama on his back. He showed Nick Saban that this is his team. He showed Nick Saban that this was his team, and it was great. It was a great way to beat Georgia when nobody thought that Alabama could beat Georgia, especially with the up and down year that they were having and how dominant Georgia was just beating these teams. Alabama just came and said, "Nah, we heard what they said. We heard what all these people were talking bad about us, what they were saying, and we're going to prove to not only the people that are talking about us, but the committee that we can go up against the best teams in the nation." And they went up against Georgia, and they beat Georgia. Now, obviously, what I will say, because yes, I was rooting for Alabama, but I did think if Brock Bowers and Ladd McConkey were healthy and were 100% ready to go and they gave it their all, especially Brock Bowers gave it his all. He was playing on one wheel, but he gave it his all. Maybe this game will be a little bit different. It will be harder to guard Brock Bowers and Ladd McConkey, but they got injured, so you can't really say too much about that. That's just what happened. That's the reality of the situation. And yes, it's unfortunate for Georgia. It's unfortunate losing after winning 29 straight, having the season that they've been having, back-to-back championships, thinking that they're going to go back. It's very heartbreaking. I would be very heartbroken if I was a Georgia Bulldog. But Alabama came in, played good on defense for the most part. But outside of that first drive where it felt as though they were just going up and down the field on Alabama. But other than that, they did good on defense, controlled the tempo of the game. Georgia had to play catch up, and they were not used to playing catch up, so they just lost the game. It was a very good game. In my opinion, I feel like this was the best game of all the championship games, which we will be talking about all the championship games.